ago. Did you look at that?
Oh, no. I haven't had that email box open for quite a while. So I will look at that. We need to change. I created another. There we go. I created another email. Is owlfreedomnation@gmail.com. So we need to change everything to that.
Okay. Will do.
So we're live.
Okay, great. Go ahead and introduce it.
Good. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you're at, fellow human, living flesh and blood men and women, earth travelers. My name is Ingrid Lorna, and tonight we're going to talk about the movement of the Tao that fuels our destiny agreement with heaven, starting with the water spirit element, since that is still receding. And in the studio with me is Julian from Mexico.
Hello. Hello, people. Lovely to be with you once again in our 28th conversation. We've had 28 conversations so far.
Wow.
This is the 28th.
That's amazing.
That's amazing,
huh? Sure.
So go ahead and get started, because you're using this word Tao lately, and I would start with that. Where does that come from? How do you write it? I don't. You know,
well,
when you say that word,
people, it's equated with China and the Taoists or Taoists. Some people spell it T-A-O. Some people spell it D-A-O.
Yeah, that's why I was confused, because I'm familiar with Tao. I've always called it Tao. Yeah. But you were calling it Tao, so that sounds just like it, and she's talking about the same thing, but I better ask.
So I've referred to before, after reading Paulo Coelho's book, The Alchemist, about our personal legend, is the same thing as our destiny agreement with heaven. So I'll flip back and forth between the word legend and destiny. It's the same thing. So the Tao, the all, the vortex, the universe, the God process is the way of life. It's the swirling vortex of creation. And our movement through life is governed, powered by a wave of destiny that we are given either the choice to fill or to reject with every heartbeat. When heaven confers this destiny or legend on us, it establishes us as one of the three primal powers of creation. And this is what separates us from the animal, the four-legged, our four-legged and furred and feathered friends, fellows, sisters and brothers. And it's a process. It's a process of maintaining the unity of heaven and earth, and our unity with heaven and earth, that finally culminates in our destiny fulfillment established for each one of us as we are born into this world. And this legend is conferred on us with our first breath, and heaven plants the seed of our original nature within us from the very moment of our first breath, and attempts to nourish that seed at every opportunity. And we have every opportunity to say no. This is where we cannot call it a contract. I used to call it a contract, but that was before I knew about the Uniform Commercial Code and contract law, which is fictitious law that can compel performance with jail or fines. Heaven cannot compel performance. It's up to us, each individual. So it's not a contract with heaven.
Okay.
So
Keep going.
So it's up to each one of us humans to discern the individual nature of our destiny, our legend. And there are, you know, the principle of cause and effect for every, so, you know, we don't get sent misery. We bring it on ourselves. We don't get sent misery by heaven. We bring it on ourselves by every time we reject returning to our true nature and fulfilling our destiny. So how do we do this? What's one way to fulfill our destiny, to tune into this, is to tune into the natural cycles of life, the four elements, the Chinese 5-element theory. And why is it important to add the 5th? Because there are 5. And the 5 is when we humans started enumerating creation with numbers, we also discovered that the golden spiral, an organizing center for evolution, is the 5. So it's important to bring a 5th element or spirit, and these are spirits. These are processes, they're spirits. People can call them angels, or however we want to refer to them, but we need to tune into them to help us with our destiny. And so each of these 5 processes, 5 elements, is associated with a power that typifies the quality of dynamic change evidenced when that element is influencing our lives in balance. So heaven, in conferring our destiny or legend on us, has cast us as mediators between heaven and earth, again, making us one of the primal powers of creation. So let's start tonight with waters. Water, the water element, the season of winter, because it is still receding. And we get this idea, we humans in our linear thinking have this idea of start and stop. And when it stops, it's done, right? But we forget that life happens in waves, and any surfer can tell you far better than I can possibly tell you that a wave doesn't just start and stop. While they're riding one wave, the next one is already building and and this is how it works. So the wave of winter is still receding. The wave of the water element is still receding. So what's the nature? It's called the Great in China. The water is called the Great, and it's the first, after the Tao, the all, creation separated to see itself, and this is where the fall comes in, is our fall from our true nature into human form. It's not being kicked out of the garden as religion tells us. This is the fall. The first movement is also the last. It is water. Water is the turning point. It's the end, and it's also the beginning. Its Chinese spirit name is the Zhi, Z-H-I, however that's pronounced. And the Zhi, this rises from our willpower to live. Okay. Our willpower to say yes to our personal legend destiny, and our desire to live, to grow, to thrive.
Yeah. And would you say that there's a big disconnection with that, and that on purpose system matrix tries to disconnect us with that power? So
absolutely. Our acquired selves separate us from that. Right? When we are infants, we're so close in our nature to the Tao, to the all, to the vortex, that we're at perfection, absolute perfection when we're infants. But then we go on to grow up and separate more and more from our true nature. So every opportunity we have to return to our true nature is the fulfillment of our legend, our destiny.
Right. And I want to say that and hear what you have to say with this, where I see people trying to fit in their destiny or their whatever, their Tao into, it's like, okay, I like that, but it has to fit into the system, into my life, right? And I just wrote I recorded a very short video today, like a 1-minute thing, saying that life is always trying to, we always want something. And the thing is that we say how we want it. And the spirit or the Tao is always trying to make us more flexible in how we want it. It's almost like there's a better thing for you then, and you cannot condition your gift to, it's like, I want a skateboard, right? But it has to come in a red wrapping, and it's like,
yeah.
So
and heaven must dislike me if it doesn't come that way, right? It must be punishing me, right? We get,
and if it's not how I want it, I don't want it, right?
Yeah.
If you don't give it to me the way I want you to give it to me, I don't want it. I'm not ready to.
Total separation. That's our fall from our original nature, which is the primal force of the universe, the Tao. I could probably in India could probably be called the Veda. What does Don Oscar Miro Quesada calls it, the Outmash Mundi, the tree of life.
Okay.
Yeah, same. It's all the same thing. I've focused on the Chinese way because to me it is the most living. It brings the most resonance and the most completion to the questions I've had about everything else, that is, because I'm okay with the fact that everything I've learned is inaccurate and incomplete. So by opening myself that way, it's allowing for a lot of evolutionary change. So absolutely, but our fall from our original nature kind of typically happens before the age of 7, but it can happen as late as the age of 12, and it's typically a really painful experience. So then the rest of our life, our monkey mind, our left brain, drives us to constantly search out things to avoid that pain, to avoid feeling that pain. And all we've got to do is say yes. And the initial pain kind of bursts like a bubble once we are willing to move through that pain to reunite with our true primal nature. And shamanism teaches soul retrievals. The soul never leaves the Tao. It's us that leaves our soul. So we can't retrieve our soul. We have to allow ourselves to be retrieved by our soul, by our destiny. That's my new way of
looking at it.
Yeah, of feeling more accurate and complete with that. And one way, there's different, Chinese medicine practitioners and people so how do we separate from our true nature, but with all our somebodyisms?
Right, but yeah, I love that part.
So I'm a somebody if I'm a Capricorn or with an Aquarius moon, or I'm a somebody. I'll start giving you a list of somebodyisms, my own somebodyisms. Alexis's mom, Chantal's mom, farmer, rancher, RN. veteran with PTSD. That's the biggest somebodyism. And every time we choose to relate more to our acquired self, our acquired somebodyisms than our true nature, we're saying no and entering the door of death. So it's, yes, it's, and the would-be powers that want to rule us know this, because that this is ancient history, this is ancient knowledge about the Tao, and so they know that the more they can tempt us to with acquired somebodyisms, the further we move from our true original nature. And there's all kinds of tests you can take to see what your constitutional nature is, and to me that's very inaccurate and incomplete. So take, for instance, when I discovered that Western astrology is inaccurate and incomplete because it doesn't bring the 13th constellation into the picture, and it's based on a computerized 360-degree circle only. So that made my sun sign a Sagittarius instead of Capricorn. I was kind of befuddled because I had adopted the somebodyism of being a Capricorn. It felt right. And so my question was, well, then where do I get this earthy, really earthy nature from? And so then I got into Mayan cosmology with you and discovered that the sun sign of my birthday is a condor, vulture. And it's like, okay, well, as I studied it, looked into that's more of an earthy. Okay, I'll go with that. Well, let's look at the time of year I was born, January 3. Now, in traditional Chinese way, they have the fifth element, earth, as only late summer, the Indian summer. In ancient Chinese, I'm not sure if it was Lao Tse or which one, I can't remember, said that the earth element is the last 18 days of every season. So then I said to myself, well, would it not also be the first 18 days of every season also? So that it's kind of like the hall between seasons. It's, between the processes. So that gives me, that's where January 3, if we consider winter water element starting with at the winter solstice, January 3 puts me right smack into an earth water constitution, which gives me that very much earthiness. Along with the water. So to me, it makes it more simple if you just look at what time of year you were born. So your birthday is in November, correct?
Yeah, mine is, yes.
So that makes you very much of a metal constitution, fall.
Right.
So to me, that's just simple, more simple than taking a computerized test, right? Or answering all these questions devised by humans that might be accurate sometimes at 1 minute in my life or at one point in my life, but not accurate tomorrow, right? So, and with every seasonal change, we have the opportunity to come into alignment with that season, because we don't, even though I was born January 3, so it makes me very strongly earth water, I still have all the rest of the elements as powers of my life to bring into balance, also to be in balance with. Same for all of us. So this is why I thought we'd start with water, since it's receding. Water in winter is still receding.
And what's coming?
What's coming? Well, we're in the water. We've been in water, earth, and now we're into earth, wood. Wood is spring.
Okay. Right.
So if we wanted to assess the qualities of water within us, we'd look at how it occurs in nature. as a single translucent droplet, or a fresh cleansing rain, or here in Oklahoma, water comes down in walls, rain comes down in walls. It's just like a solid wall of rain. It could be a clear stream. It could be a river overflowing its banks. It could be a tidal wave overwhelming everything that lies in its path, or like the entire ocean, or steam, vapor that rises up to the clouds to come down as rain again, or ice. Water can take many forms, and it always falls to the lowest and takes the shape of its container.
Yeah.
And during the winter, the earth becomes a seed. It's dead on the surface. Its potential is frozen deep within. It's the same with us. Every winter, as we transition from fall into winter, we have the opportunity to let all of our somebodyisms decay and fall away, so that the new, a closer moment with our true nature, a true year, a new year with being closer to our true nature appears with us. And what organs are aligned with water in winter would be the kidneys and the bladder. And why do they do this? Because the kidneys filter and concentrate all the water, and the bladder lets it go what needs to go. But it also signifies the bladder also signifies the wise use of resources also, and the kidneys.
Wow. So I guess we have two kinds of people today. I've been wanting to ask you about something I call the Great Separation. And talk about separation, where like there's a good, and this would maybe have something to do with my tihash, my lightning knife that cuts away the rotten, the surgeon sign, where I'm supposed to have a destiny of cutting away what's evil, cutting away the evil. And I think we came into an era, into a time where I was just told a few what was it, yesterday? It was on Sunday, that my great mother-in-law of my sacred circle came to this town. She lives in another town not far away, and she told me that the Wixárika natives said that the earth and the sky have separated. That's all she said. I'm thinking that they did a ceremony, because I know they did the ceremony where they tried to reunite the heaven and the sky. So there, I see that separation. I see that there's
absolutely, because we're not taking our place as a primal force of creation. Absolutely, they're separated. We're not unifying earth and heaven within ourselves.
And then my dad calls me yesterday. My dad is he's quite the warrior. He's a real warrior. And he says, stop. He asks, he's like that. I'm a little more broad sensed, like you. I'm like you in the sense where I want to reach out to everybody. But he said to me, stop directing yourself, stop speaking to all those people who just want to follow the money. That's what he said. Okay. If by now they don't get it, they don't get that following the money is what's wrong. There's nothing you can do about it. you know, and I've been having this process of really separating myself from the people that are on that, and it's not just the money, it's many of the other kind of woke programming they're getting, you know, lots of friends, women friends, that they've been falling into the feminism movement really strongly. And one day I just decided to, hey, cut them up, like let them go, you know, just don't want to speak to them. And when I decided to do that separation, and, you know, and say, okay, I don't want you in my life, a lot of things improved. My energy got better. I feel a lot better. And then my dad says, stop talking to those who are not understanding, right? But I still want to believe that we have to, and that there is redemption for them, even if they are so far away, they're so separated.
Well, right? There is. And that's why I was talking last week with the equinox talk about this turning point, this sun being grandfather, elder brother, son. He's now in the turning point hour, and he does this yearly. And at the solstice, at the summer solstice, he's going to be way north at the turning point, right? He's going to go through and so and at the winter solstice, he's way south at the turning point. So every 3 months, every 6 months, from grandfather, elder brother, son, we get the impetus, the energy to come home to our true selves, to let go of the acquired somebodyisms. But every single time, Julian, every single time that we pass that door and say no because we feel like the pain is too great, heaven doesn't care what body fulfills the destiny. So heaven doesn't give. Heaven doesn't. I get it. You get it, right? So every time a living human being says no, they start their death process, their composting process, their mulching process. So, and the more no's they give, the harder and more focused discipline they will have to apply to reconnect themselves with their true nature. There is always hope until their last breath is taken from them, or I mean they breathe their last, right, and they cross over and their body is mulched. However, the more times they say no, the more challenging it is to say yes, and the closer they are to having their body composted.
And then, you know, there's those people, you know, I would see that there's, you know, the people who have been separated from the sky, and
they're separated from Earth.
And way separated from Earth, right? Totally. You know, they've been trapped in the bubble, in a cell. And we've just determined that they, even if it's that bad, they still have redemption. They can still access.
Absolutely.
But then I want to hear my dad's advice and think that among the thousands of people that are like that, there's one person that is not like that, and that is living and this process, and that is wanting to touch the sky and touch the earth and come back to the earth. And I think that's the real people that, you know, are listening. That's the ones that are going to be following us, following this video. They're going to be watching it throughout.
See, you know. Here's the thing, Julian. We're so programmed to be followers. So we have this myth of this character Jesus in the Bible, and there happens to be a character 400 years before that character named Mithras, who had the exact same legend of being born of a woman, born of a virgin woman on December 25. Or, you know, and it's not necessarily December 25, but born of a virgin woman with 12 followers, right? So this is why it's so incomplete and inaccurate to say the zodiac has only 12 signs, because that constantly puts the savior outside of us, and we need to bring that in or inside. And there is at any point, but we're so used to being followers that we follow and never actually participate.
That's such an important thing to point out. Yeah. I I was using the word for somebody that's watching the video, following the video or watching it. But then it's so important to point out that hear yourself. I'm so amazed at at the words that come out of you right now, because they show how you're just totally not focused on gaining following, on gaining ego, on gaining money, on gaining all of these things that we've been taught are the things that you should be getting, right? Attention
or somebodyisms. Yeah.
Right. And how true freedom and true growth comes through the empowerment of the whole. So you're empowering yourself, and then you're empowering everybody else, and we're empowering everybody else, and I think those people that are listening should know that, and should hear that we don't care about you following us. You know, I'm talking to this friend of mine. I hope he hears this. He takes the time one day and listens to all these videos. We recorded Obadiah in New York, because I told him, hey man, you know, think about what you can do, like a volunteer. What can you do, right? How can you join this process? How can we come together? What how can you support this? And I was expecting him to think of something. I wanted him to take the initiative, to take the, it's like it's a thinking exercise. It's a creativeness exercise that I want him to do, where he has to come up with an idea, like you say, an idea hero. He has to get that, it has to come to him, right? I can't shove it, to him. Yeah. So he just answered, I don't know, man, what do you need, right? So he's a really good follower. And then he should hear this message where, I appreciate the fact that at least you're fixing your attention here with me or with us so far. That's valuable, because that's hard to come by nowadays. But it shouldn't stop there, and we don't know the answers to everything. All we can do is empower you for you to come up with your bright idea, and for you to say, I want to do this. This is my
aligning yourself with your destiny and your will, and the will of heaven brings all kinds of ideas.
But for that, everything we're doing here, Ingrid, the pillars of sovereignty. If somebody wants to go check out the website, Owl Freedom Nation. Everything we've shared in the videos, the first videos where we went over the pillars, they're on YouTube. We switched to Vimeo for many reasons. They, you know, these are guidelines, or I think that's people need to hear this. People need to, or like, not all people like Obadiah, who are really wanting to become free and get to that sovereignty. There's all these many things that you can work on, all these empowerment.
Well, I feel it starts with coming into harmony with your element. So take, for instance, my sister, my next, I have 3 older sisters, the next one in line, the next older one than me. She has voiced many times that she feels that life isn't interesting enough to be lived fully. And so she went and had surgery during the fall, very close to probably, yes, absolutely. She was in the earth metal season, very close to the turning point of winter, very close to the winter solstice. She had a spinal anesthesia for this, and the point of the acupuncture point is called Mingmen. It's of the water element, is right where the anesthesiologist puts the needle to do the spinal. She almost died. They couldn't maintain her blood pressure hardly at all after the surgery. And I told her the underlying energy of this. And I told her, Nancy, if you want to live, you're going to have to find the will in yourself to decide that life is exciting enough to live, because your Jing, your kidney Jing, your kidney spirit is so weak, you almost died. And she just goes, meh. And she just a couple weeks ago, I talked to her, and she is still having blood pressure problems. And that is simply because she is not choosing to say yes to fulfilling her destiny.
Right.
So I feel like, you know, this is why I wanted to talk about the water element, and each element has virtues, and this is how we can attune to ourselves. So like the winter water is, the virtue is wisdom, transforming fear into wisdom. And when the virtue, in the face of the unknown, the virtue of wisdom empowers us to navigate in a way that is presided over by our innate knowing, our innate connection to the will of heaven. Its wisdom is the virtue that empowers us to stand firmly in the face of the unknown and chart a steady course through the waters, the chaos. And each element has a rhythm. What's the rhythm of water? Winter. Well, it's 2 beats: life or death, life or death, life or death, life or death. Because, right, the water freezes into ice and it melts into life. It freezes into ice and melts into life. And then each element has a thesis that our life revolves around. And the thesis of water is utilizing resources wisely and bringing potential into the world in a way that cultivates the virtue of wisdom. Now, what's the irony of this? The constant use of our own will, not aligned with the will of heaven, is actually really exhausting and depletes us of energy. So true power comes from wisdom, which results from the cultivation of our true resources. And cultivating wisdom is the fulfillment of destiny for the person born during the water cycle. Okay. So, and we can go, you know, that's just barely skimming the surface, and that's about, you know, that's probably enough for tonight. But so virtue, the water, the wisdom of winter, the virtue of winter is wisdom, turning fear into wisdom and saying yes to life. And that cultivates our kidney essence and links us with heaven. So we can associate that Mingmen point. Remember in the Matrix how they showed the blood computer, the
Yeah,
cord.
yeah.
It's actually at the Mingmen point. That's our connection to heaven. It's right there.
Wow.
Where the anesthesiologist puts their needle to do a spinal. That's
Wow.
the Mingmen.
So how can we, is there a little hack you know of that can, I mean, it's pretty clear here.
There is no hack.
You want to find
There is
life.
no hack. There is a simple saying yes and be willing to do the work of letting go of your acquired self. There's just not a hack. Everyone wants to hack and make it quicker. It doesn't work that way.
Well, maybe just a symbolic thing that will make people believe that by doing it, they'll start doing it. The shamans in the Andes, they call it psychology.
Maybe like, the hack is just saying yes. You know, our whole anti-drug campaign and anti-alcohol and stuff is always just say no. Maybe our campaign needs to be just say yes. Just say yes to life. Just say yes to your spirit. Just say yes. Just say yes. Yes, yeah. I want to live. Yes. I want to fulfill my destiny.
Well, I would think that having interest or having done some of the things that I know you've done, like stopping or quitting many of the, or knowing about, I mean, knowledge is everything's in the knowledge, the wisdom. Knowing that there's poisons in things we eat, and starting to detox from the fluoride and from many things that are there to disconnect us, right?
Right, but it doesn't matter how much of that we do. If we're not saying yes to our destiny, it doesn't matter, Julian.
I totally
It doesn't matter
agree.
what we eat. It doesn't matter what we drink. If we're not saying yes to our destiny, our body will be composted. Bottom line.
I totally agree. I still want to help somehow people find that spirit, because so many people don't. I mean, I'm not thinking about Obadiah. I'm thinking about the ones that are a little more asleep. And you know, I'm putting myself in their shoes and trying to listen to what you're saying from their shoes. And to me, it's like, well, that sounds wonderful, but how do I listen to my spirit? It's like, where is it? That's what I think they would think. I don't know, but I think there is little steps, and then there's this one giant step, which is, and I love this mentioning of the fear and the water and the flowing, and how, you know, in the Toltec teachings, we're taught that fear, when we're taught to hunt ourselves, where if me as a Toltec trainee or trainer, or, you know, I train myself in Toltec training, I'm constantly looking for things that cause me fear, right? So, okay, this makes me fear. This makes me feel afraid. That's it. That's what I want to do. That's exactly what I want to do. That's, you know, once you get over the fear, and there's this one big moment in life where you have to overcome fear. When you do that, then what you do is use fear as an indicator of where your growth is. Whatever makes you fear, that's somewhere you want to go take a look, right? You want to.
Right. So that
and it makes sense. I mean,
fear into wisdom.
It makes sense if you have a room. Let's say you have a room in your house that has been locked since you've been there, and you're and you don't know what's in it, and it makes you afraid. I mean, there's this bad energy there. What's the best solution is to go in the room. I mean, obviously you're afraid. Obviously you have to face whatever's in there, right? But why would you want to live your life with that room in there? Why can't you just go in it and clean it up and see what's in it and get that through and get it done with, right?
Well, because we live our life, Julian, on habits. So by the time we're age 35, for the vast majority of us, our life is driven by our habits. We don't even have to inhabit our body. It will just do what it's been habituated to do. This is why I said there are no hacks, because it's like training a new puppy. It's like raising a child. How many times did you have to say no to your 2-year-old? How many times did you have to repeat the same things over and over to your 2-year-old? That's what we're like. We're so freaking habituated that there are no hacks, because it takes consistency. It takes the discipline of the warrior. It takes the focus. It takes wanting to do the work.
And it takes
being willing to face the pain of having fallen from the original primal unified state that our soul longs to return to.
Right. I also
and everything
see it as,
about society is addict. So we don't have to feel that pain. So we can, so.
Yeah, and I would also add the analogy of the plant, of being able to take care of a plant, where it's not, it only takes consistency. It only takes wanting to care for the plant, wanting the plant to live, right? And not getting frustrated with, oh, I'm so bad at plants. Change that mindset and make sure the plant lives. Find out what the plant needs, and
it starts
you need
with the stories we tell ourselves too. Because if we tell ourselves we're horrible at taking care of the plant, heaven will show us that we're horrible at taking care of the plant.
Right.
And this is one of the agreements from Don Miguel Ruiz is be impeccable with your word. Don't gossip is one of being impeccable, but the most important part of being impeccable with your word is not berating yourself for everything. And we love our suffering. We love to tell ourselves how awful we are.
Yeah, and tell others.
And so heaven will reflect that to us. We don't understand that the world is our mirror. So if you want to say, well, I'm really awful at this, then that's what we will see.
Yeah. Make that connection between your words.
My ex broke his arm 3 years ago, and he was singing the mantra of I'm broke, moneyless, right? And I looked at him and I said, do you want your arm to heal? Then quit telling heaven that you're broke, because it will never heal if you don't quit telling heaven you're broke. And he just looked at me.
And doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make,
it's like,
yeah.
What's the connection? One thing is in my mind.
I used to say, yeah, I used to say as a joke, if my head wasn't attached to my body, I'd leave it behind too, right? Because I'd say I'd walk away from the cash register and forget my bag of groceries. Because I wasn't being fully present. And then a couple of years ago, I went to see, was having some really bad back pain. I was experiencing some really bad back pain. And I went to see a craniosacral therapist, and he told me, your head is not connected to your body. And I looked at him and I thought to myself, that's the last time I'm ever saying that again. I will never say again the words, if my head wasn't attached, I'd leave it behind.
That's
So
such a
ever since
powerful
then, my mantra has been, my head is firmly attached to my body. My head
That's
is fully integrated with my body.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Very amazing. So I think we can leave this as a bundle of gifts, of experiences and wisdom and teachings for people in this video. Is there something I was going to suggest that we start finishing up? I think we kind of covered.
Finish, I would like to say, you know, we talked a couple weeks ago about the Neptune Jupiter conjunction coming up. They're getting closer and closer, and if you can't feel it feels like time is speeding up, and it is. 13 years ago with the last Jupiter Neptune conjunction, we had the time. Like I started my path of waking up from the god of disease at that point in time, and I just came into the last 2 years fully waking up to the god of disease and also the god of money, and that everything that I'd been taught through life was somebody's spin on a story and was therefore inaccurate and incomplete. And it didn't faze me because I had done enough. I had woken up and done enough work that my inner knowing just accepted it, right? Okay, well, fine. Now let's show me more complete, more accurate. But we don't, for those who haven't said yes, it's going to happen just like this. And if you can't handle it, and if you don't say no, there's going to be a lot. I mean, if you don't start saying yes to your destiny, there's going to be a lot of living human, a lot of people exiting stage left, so to speak, in this next 12 years, because heaven is saying you don't have the time. You can't take 26 years anymore to wake up. For those of us who have chosen to say yes to our destiny, we know that we have the time. But for those who aren't saying it, there is no time. You've got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and let's leave that to resonate inside of them and take it as the biggest gift that the spirit can give them is this wisdom, this message. And
it's not about the Black Hat Alliance or the White Hat Alliance politically. It is, are you choosing life or are you choosing death? Literally, every day. Are you choosing to go the route of composting your body, or are you choosing to choose life? That's the best way I can wrap it up.
Yeah. I hope it's understood. I hope that they can connect all the pieces. It might seem that we say random things, but we don't. We are actually weaving a lot of things, and we're going to continue doing that. What do you think about the next week, Ingrid? What is it going to be?
We'll talk about the earth element, the earth spirit, next week.
Okay, so we're going through the elements in these conversations.
Yeah, because this is how to ride the wave of freedom. That's your destiny of freedom, health, and true freedom, true health, and true prosperity, and true peace for all of us. Is to tune into your true nature with the elements, with the process of creation.
Awesome. So join us next week, Tuesdays at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. We do live on Vimeo. You can check Facebook, Owl Freedom Nation, where I normally share the link to the live video on Vimeo. Otherwise, you can go into Vimeo at Sacred Blue Heron Woman channel. That's where we have all the other conversations, or at least the latest ones. The other ones are on YouTube, Owl Freedom Nation and YouTube. And we hope to see you next week, Tuesday, where we will talk about the earth element. So thank you, Ingrid, for all this wisdom and all these teachings and all the blessings you give to humanity. Thank you for bringing us together.
You're welcome. And your dad is kind of accurate and about that, is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So the point is, I feel like the point is to drop seeds, plant seeds with our words, but focus on ourselves coming into full alignment with our divine will, because that fills what they call the Hara line. And the Hara line is where the martial artists break a brick from, or break a chunk of ice, or whatever they break when they do their testing, is fully resonating. And when that Hara line of ourselves is so full, that will be like the story in the Bible of the woman touching the hem of Jesus' robe and being healed instantly. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Hara line was so full that his word, just his voice, could pull people out of their slumber. So that's my focus, is just really focusing on myself and coming into my own, fully aligning with my full destiny.
And that's a great message. And there's so much speeding up. I think right now it's bringing us to another level. That's coming to another level.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
So much revelation, so much change.
Yeah. So on that, we will end the live stream.